All right, so we're going to get started today. You got two handouts, exercise 218, and you also got your final assignment for the class. And I recognize that we're just a couple days over the halfway point in the semester, but in having taught this class a number of times, I find that starting the final early, prior to getting into lighting and kind of the specialty stuff that we're going to talk about in V-Ray, makes a lot of sense, because I don't want you to have to go back and, let's say we're doing night renderings, rather than do a test scene and set up some night renderings, and then go back and create your artist retreat and do the night renderings on that. It works better to actually use your real geometry and keep working at it and making it better and making it better and making it better. So rather than just setting up arbitrary sample scenes for you to work with, we're going to work with your actual project. So because we're working with your actual project, you need to create your project before we can do it. And so we're going to spend the next 2 days in class, happy almost spring break, working on your final project. The idea here is to get as much geometry built in Rhino as you possibly can now, so that when you start to do the renderings, starting when we get back from spring break, as you do a rendering, it can almost be your final rendering. Now, truth be told, when you do your first exterior day rendering, chances are your building is going to evolve a little bit along the way. You guys can't help yourselves from changing the design a little bit as you work, but that's okay. As we set this stuff up, it'll be easy to go back and re-render certain scenes, but you're going to keep working to build this particular model up. So today I'm going to talk through what it is that you're going to be designing in the first place, but what I want you to do is to focus on creating the building itself in its own file. And then next class, while you'll still have the whole class day to work on your building and improve it, we're going to take that building and insert it into the scene and kind of the context. And so there will be certain scripted things that you'll do as part of it. But for the most part, the next 2 class days you have to just model and work. And that's the idea. If you say, no, I'll catch up later and leave early or do those kinds of things, you will regret it, I promise you. Because the further you are along, the easier it'll be when you get to the stages of doing the renderings. So it takes a lot to create a really high quality model with a lot of detail. I'm looking for a lot of detail. If you've seen prior work, you know that they put a lot of detail into it. And there's a lot of parts to it. You got to do texture mapping on all those little pieces. There's a huge amount of work that goes into making a really good high quality render, but I want you to get there because that's when it gets really fun. So we will do that. We will also cover how to make line drawings out of Rhino. And that's something that I saved for the end. It's the last 4 or 5 lectures in the class where you do all this work to create a beautiful Rhino model. How do you actually get traditional architectural plans, sections, elevations, etc., out of your Rhino model? And that's part of this final requirement as well. So when we get to the final, you don't have to worry so much today about what the actual end product is going to be, but I'll at least go through it with you a little bit so you know. Essentially, you need to have a minimum of 4 high-quality renderings: exterior, day, and night. So there's 2. Interior, day, and night. That's 4. Many people do lots more than that, and so there's no cap on how many you can have, but you need to have at least 4. And they need to be the exterior, day and night, and the interior, day and night. The reason you have to do both is obviously because we're trying to render for all occasions. Then you will need to, and I have to double check this on the exact number. You need to do a plan and a section of your building. And I'll teach you how to do it. You guys don't have anywhere near the skills to do it just yet. But you will do a plan and a section. I will walk you through doing an elevation, and I'll also walk you through doing like a sectional perspective. So we'll get to some of the more complicated drawings as well, but you at least will need a plan and a section, and I'll teach you how to do that when we get a little bit further along in the class. So all of this is printed out on 11 by 17 sheets. You do have to submit it like you normally would online, but we'll hang them up in the back on the last day of class, which is Monday, the 22nd of May. Like I said, we're more than halfway there. Class starts on that day at 10:30, not at 11, because it's final schedule, and you only get 2 hours with me instead of 3 hours with me. So it's 10:30 to 12:30 is class time. You have to be here, obviously, and you have to hang up your work. You also have to have posted all your work by 12:30. At 12:30, just like in 135, it's the cutoff. Class is over. I don't accept any work. If it's 12:31, too bad. Right? It is what it is. That's the end of class. So everything has to be there. And you see I made it in bold at the bottom. No late work accepted. Okay? So that's where we're going. That'll be a fun day. You get to eat donuts. Life is good. Right? At least I try to make it good. And then you stress out about whatever your next class is. I also always make it the first day so that it's over. I don't know when the 221 review is scheduled. Is it? Usually that's on Wednesday, which is why I do this on Monday. It leaves you time to panic and deal with that. Okay? So I'm looking at you guys in 221, right? So let's talk about today and getting started with this Artist Retreat. And so this is the same program that I've done in the past. I didn't change it because I think it works really well for you guys trying to develop a really fully modeled, well-rendered building. And that is, this is inherently very small. I say the square footage limit is 500 square feet. I'm very liberal about how you use that 500 square feet, but I don't want you going over. Usually people ask, well, what about exterior patio? Can I have more than, can I extend out beyond the, yes, you can, okay? The idea here is if you make it 2,000 square feet, you can't put the attention to detail that you need to do really good renderings. So small, lots of detail. Big, no detail, that's not good. Small, lots of detail, okay? So what you're going to do, I also set this up so that if you want to envision this as a portfolio project, there is enough about the program and whatever to make it into a really complicated project. If you are feeling like, I just want my head to be above water, I need to get through, you can be very loose about the definition. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to design this for an artist. That artist can be a known artist. If you want to make it simpler on yourself, that artist could be you, because technically you're an artist too. Okay, so you see the spectrum here. If you picked Richard Serra and you were going to design a building for Richard Serra, it would probably have Corten steel in it. If you picked it for you, it might be just whatever kind of felt right to you. But the point is, it's very open-ended, and I do that on purpose because there's a lot of you in different places in your career. Some of you are taking this as your first computer class. Some of you went through 135 with me. You've already been through all of that. You're like, I got this down, and you might want to do something a little more complicated. It's up to you, and you guys decide where you fit on that. I'll show you the two sites in just a second. Both are remote. One is on the California coast. One is up in the Sierras by Lake Tahoe. I picked both of those locations because they're remote. You have to hike to them. It's either a 1 or a 2 hour hike to get there. We can say that you have access to a solar field so you can have power. Sounds good. We'll also say that you have water and waste facilities available on site, even though you really don't. But we'll just say you do. Okay? So this is not technical where you have to solve those problems. However, it's a very loaded site. You have incredible views. You have really interesting climate conditions to be dealing with. And through a combination of those, you can generally come up with a very interesting building that is very small. Okay? So let's take a look at the sites. If we go to today's exercise, at the bottom of here, there is a zip file with site information. And so I tried to, you can see I haven't changed it for a while. Right? I tried to provide information for you to kind of sort out the site. I have the SketchUp files ready for you to bring in. The ones that we're going to look at right now are Site 1 and Site 2. They're KML files, which is a Google Earth file. So if I open up Site 1, we will open up Google Earth. And we'll do our fun little animation. And we'll zoom in to the building site itself. So let me scroll back a little bit so you can get a little bit better context of where we are. Lake Tahoe? Seem familiar to anybody? Anybody visited Lake Tahoe before? Maybe? Okay. So our building site is right near Mount Tallac, which is a very tall peak that overlooks all of Lake Tahoe. Let's see if we can get a picture there. That's looking the back direction. Let's see. There we go, looking out over Tahoe. So pristine, beautiful view sort of thing. I didn't put it right at the top of Tallac. Your building site is over a little bit further on the shoulder. So let's swing this around a little bit here so we can zoom out. And I'm going to swing up the view just a little bit. And so there is the top. That was where I just showed you. You're going to be over here on this little shoulder. All right, there's a little promontory that comes out. If you want to be up here in the flat spot at the top, that's fine. I've had people in the past pick to be down in this bowl. But anywhere in this general vicinity is good. If we flip around the other direction, maybe it'll let me. Come on. Flip, flip, flip. There we go. And we look up a bit. You see that we're looking out over Lake Tahoe, Mount Rose, etc., looking from South Shore to North Shore, kind of out that way. So you have a very big view to work with. In terms of the view, you're looking primarily for the view, you're primarily looking northeast. So in terms of lighting conditions and whatever, your south side is going to be behind this site. Your view is going to be looking out to the north. This area gets an incredible amount of snow. There was actually an article yesterday about some completely insane person who was jumping off the top of this and skiing down the cross here and got caught in an avalanche. Anyway, ridiculously large amount of snow, especially on a winter like this. We're talking, 12 plus feet of snow in this area. So in terms of winter access, that would be rather challenging, but I guess maybe if you're this rich that you can build on national forest lands, maybe you have a helicopter that can fly you in or something. I don't know. But in terms of designing for that, that's obviously a condition. In terms of summer-like conditions, they're classic Tahoe summer conditions. You can get some wind up here. Generally, the wind is going to go down the canyon in the later afternoon because it's coming from Sacramento Valley, and it's going to go through these canyons out over Lake Tahoe that way. Generally in the mornings, it's going to come off Lake Tahoe and come up canyon. So you're going to get two different wind conditions depending on the time of day. You might want to think about that as part of your design sense. So generally, in terms of site responsiveness, you're thinking about light and you're thinking about climate conditions, wind, that sort of thing. So that's the first site, again, up in Tahoe. And I would encourage you, don't just look at these photos that are here and see, kind of get yourself a little bit of context. I don't know that any of these are particularly good, but you get a variety of different views that kind of give you a sense for what you're seeing and what it would be like. And really think about, do I want to be designing here or do I want to be designing somewhere else? Because you want to feel like you like the area that you're designing for. And it's quite interesting because I would say it ends up being about half and half every semester with who chooses what site to pick. And you can get an idea for what the top is like. It's kind of a high alpine meadow, so rocky, little scrub brush, that sort of thing. Okay, so that's the first site. As promised, the second site is on the California coast. So we'll jump across the state and we'll drop in right here at the tip of Point Reyes. Point Reyes is typically what you're looking at is out over here. But we're going to pick way up here by Bodega Bay at this little point. This is Tomales Bay in here, if you've been to the coast before. And we're picking a site, let's see if I can get one of the photos, that's on the end of this cliff promontory. So you see, in terms of site conditions, very similar. Steep with a flat top. So you're going to be dealing with the same kinds of things. Do you build on top? Do you build over the side? Obviously, in terms of geography, let's see if we can flip this down a little bit here. Nope, wrong button. We're looking at an ocean context. There we go. There's our little bit. And if we were to swing around, sunset's going to happen, obviously, that way, okay, out to the west. You may or may not want to think about that. You're going to have the offshore breezes. You're going to have fog conditions. You're also going to have bright sun conditions. So you can get a big temperature swing here. It's North California coast. So when you're thinking about that, generally it's cold. It's not the wide open Malibu warm ocean conditions. And you may or may not be concerned with that as part of your design process. There we go. There's another view from kind of the top looking out. Again, very nice view. A lot of site to deal with and kind of embrace or not embrace. And where you choose to build on this site is really up to you. Does that kind of make sense? So today, take your time, think through who your artist is going to be, and reflect on that. Then you're going to go ahead and start your building on its own Rhino file without the ground around it, which is always a little challenging. If you want to have it hanging off the side of the cliff, obviously making your building tall and kind of, on various levels is a good idea. If you want to have it on top, level tends to be the easier strategy. We will talk about accommodating the terrain when we bring it in next class. So read through the rest of this. If you have any questions, let me know. The key, though, is to just get started and to actually start modeling things. We will get down to the level of modeling light fixtures and having those in there. So there is a high level of modeling that needs to occur. So in terms of where we're going from here, you guys have turned in, I hope, your topographies. I'm going to sit here today and I'm going to try to grade all of them so that they're all given back to you. I don't want to keep them. Okay? I would fill up my office if I did. Question?
I'm late.
Okay, well,
Can I give it tomorrow
I won't be here tomorrow, but you can give it to me on Wednesday.
Wednesday?
Yeah.
How much?
Question. It's 10%. 10% for every class day.
Should we redo assignments?
Absolutely. So
Will I
just
get a penalty if you, let's say I turn something in right now, but I want to redo it, I redo it without a penalty?
as long as you turn it in on the day it's due,
Oh,
as in today, you can redo it without a late penalty. If you turn it in late, you can still redo it, but the late penalty stays. So if you turned it in late and you got let's say an 80% and it was one day late, so you got a 70% overall, you could redo it and get 100% theoretically, but you'd still lose the 10%, so you'd be dropped to 90% because it was still late. It's always considered late. Okay? All right, if you have any other questions, let me know. Otherwise, lots and lots of modeling is what we want over the next 2 days.
So you have the whole
You have until the end of the semester.